and the markets, the rand, slipping a little bit before it recovered somewhat. But his initial reaction is that perhaps not setting too much confidence in the markets at this stage. But we'll wake up tomorrow morning and see what the JSE does after digesting the information overnight. All right, let's speak to Sizwe Pamla, who's with Cosatu. Thanks so much indeed for joining us. Welcome to the program.
Evening to your viewers.
So, what was in it for you as a trade union federation? Good news, mediocre, or bad news? How did you see it?
No, we don't really pin our hopes on personalities. They come in and out of the cabinet. So we can only just note, really. Let us give all of the new appointees the same chance we have given to those who were there before. We will judge them based on their performance. So for now, we note this. We will give all of them a chance, and we wish them well. That's really all that we can say for now.
What do you think the message the president is sending by assembling this new team?
We really don't want to go deeper into trying to decipher the message because for us, we are looking at the recycling of the old guard that has been there. So that really doesn't send much of a message. Most of these people have been in and around the policy making and decision making for the better part of the last 2 decades. So it's like if you are coaching a team, you keep reshuffling people from backline to say, let this one go, be a striker this time around. But like I said, we're not going to try and look and analyze and look for a message. Ours is the president has reshuffled his team. We welcome and note that. Now let us give them a chance. We will work with them. And we'll be constructive partners when necessary, and we'll hold them accountable where we feel that they are failing.
All right. He did say that this comes at a very difficult time in South Africa, and given what we've seen play out, there were expectations about the security cluster, changes made. What do you make of Thandi Modise now being put in defence, and that's a key post, a key position?
Well, like I said, all of these incoming people, the intentions from the president are good. But let's look at the results. We're not going to charge people before they've even been shown their own offices. Let everybody be given a fair chance. Even the ones who have been removed, they were given the same chance. And after an assessment of sorts, the president decided that he needed new people. The incoming ones, let them be given time to settle and let's then talk about their performance. That will be fair to South Africans. It will also be fair to them.
Did the president consult Cosatu before the appointments?
Yes, the president did present his team to the leaders of the federation, and the leaders did note and made it clear to him that, look, we wish them well. We will work with all of them. We hope that we will not have to fight, but when necessary, they can rest assured that we will fight. But that's not what we are really intending to do. We want to be constructive partners. The problems facing this country are huge. We need all social partners to cooperate and work with these new deployees. But they can rest assured if they do some of the things that have seen us fight with their predecessors, they can rest assured that we'll do the same. But for now, we look forward to working with all of them.
All right. We'll leave it there, Mr. Pamela. Thank you very much indeed for joining us. Thank you for your thoughts. Let's go to the EFF now, and we're joined by Veronica Mente. Thank you so much indeed. Welcome to the program, National Chairperson.
Thank you very much, Peter Ndara. Good evening to the viewers at home.
How does the EFF see this cabinet reshuffle?
It's nothing we didn't expect. you can see it's a simple consolidation of a certain faction in the ANC which favors the sitting president. And there's nothing you can drive home about it. There's absolutely nothing effective about it. There's no one that you can look at it and say, this one will do much better. Because the problem in any way in this country is the ANC itself. The individuals that get chopped and changed today to go and mess up there, and you remove a person from a place where they have messed up to go and hit another department. It's a story that is just, it's a round and round, and it has no end.
All right, so pretty much more of the same as far as you're concerned. But are there any appointments that stand out that might be of concern for you?
First and foremost, why keep the deputy ministers? You keep the deputy ministers for what? What is their role? What are they doing? Because they do absolutely nothing. They are not helping the country. They are not effective in anything. So I do not understand why the president, in particular, right now when the country is dealing with the issues of lack of finances, why then have burden yourself with the salaries of and the packs of deputy ministers, which is not necessary? That was the first point of call, which he was supposed to have been dealing with. But he has not done it. And secondly, Mama Thandi Modise, going there would say, because Mama Thandi Modise is a legend on her own, and she may bring in much more needed experience, much more stability. But what can she do in a cabinet that is of that stature, which is compromised, which has never done anything? Look at the welfare of this country. Look at the economic policies. Look at the social policies of this country. Even those that are good on paper, they have done absolutely nothing about it. We see money disappearing. We see money being stolen. We see people not suffering any consequences. And therefore, it means nothing to reshuffle a cabinet in a country where there are no consequences for people who are stealing, where there are no consequences for people who treat the society with disdain. And we have cabinet ministers who just enjoy perks and doing absolutely nothing for the people.
All right, so as far as you're concerned, pretty much more of the same, and you're underwhelmed, to say the least. Thank you very much indeed for joining us, National Chairperson of the EFF, Veronica Menta. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
All right, let's find out the thoughts of the Inkatha Freedom Party. The Chief Whip is Naren Singh. Thank you very much indeed for joining us this evening. Your thoughts on the cabinet reshuffle announced this evening?
Well, thank you very much, Peter, and good evening to your listeners. I think it's the shuffling of a pack of cards. We don't see very many new faces in this cabinet, except there are some good appointments. But, he's extended the cabinet to an extent by separating the human settlements and water and sanitation portfolio. And I think whether or not this cabinet that the captain of the ship has announced is going to improve the capacity of government is yet to be seen. And we must not consider this, a silver bullet to solve the multiple crises that the country is facing. So all in all, nothing extremely exciting, nothing fresh, nothing new. For us, it's a bit of a disappointment that Minister of Finance, Tito Mboweni, asked to be, and I say this in jest, asked to be excused as a Minister of Finance. I don't believe that. The IFP doesn't believe that. We know that there's been a lot of pressure on him from the trade unions that he be removed. But we believe that he, as Minister of Finance, spoke truth to power. He was a realist, and he was prepared to say things as they are. And he's fallen on the axe now. The axe has fallen on him, and I don't think he really wanted to be excused. Then we also see a concentration of power in the presidency, which reminds us of the Thabo Mbeki regime. And I don't know whether the president himself within the ANC is feeling a bit insecure, so wants to centralize power within the presidency. And to have Zizi Kodwa there, in charge of SSA, I mean, where does that take us? It doesn't take us anywhere because he was always there. Ayanda Zorzo, she was incompetent. Minister of Defense is going to be moved. The Minister of Police, showed how incompetent he is in the recent crisis. So, he could have done more, could have done better in putting a competent team to lead the country on his behalf and under his watch.
All right. And his rationale for splitting human settlements and water and sanitation, do you buy that?
No, don't buy that because, you don't wake up one morning and think that water and sanitation are such important things in our country. I know they are. We all know they are. But, when these two portfolios were combined, there was a particular reason for that. And now to do away with that reason, I think it was just jobs for pals. The cabinet is still too big. There are far too many deputy ministers that don't have executive responsibility. We could cut back on the deputy ministers. For example, if you take the new Minister of Health, a good person, Dr. Joe Pasta, he's been there, he knows the department, but he was always in the shadows. And if we need to appoint deputy ministers, we need to call them something else, but give them executive powers so that we can hold them accountable in Parliament and the country can hold them accountable for their action or their inaction.
All right. Interesting one. Lindiwe Sisulu to tourism. Your thoughts on that?
Well, it's a bit of a joke. She's been holding so many portfolios. Probably the president found himself in a corner. He couldn't remove her from cabinet completely. And then put her into tourism. I mean, it's a demotion as far as we are concerned. And people who are not capable and competent, even amongst those that have been appointed there, were moved aside, moved to other portfolios, instead of them being moved completely out. And you have brand new, fresh people come into the cabinet.
All right, and that's where we'll leave it. Thank you so much indeed for joining us this evening and sharing your thoughts with us on this reshuffle. All right, so that's the IFP Chief Whip, Naren Singh. Not entirely impressed with what he's heard this evening. And again, sentiment that we've been hearing this evening is that not too much of a change, rather a reshuffling of the same pack of cards. Well, let's get the sense from the Democratic Alliance and the Democratic Alliance leader, John Steenhuisen. Thank you very much indeed for joining us. Your initial reaction to the cabinet reshuffle?
Obviously, very disappointing to see the resignation of Minister Tito Mboweni. I think he was able to hold the line against a lot of the unions and the radical left, and I think that that is going to be problematic going forward. The big surprise for me this evening was that Bheki Cele kept his job. I think that the SAPS have been exposed in this particular last month in South Africa as being wholly unprepared and unsuitable and unresourced to deal with the matters that broke out in KwaZulu-Natal and Gauteng. And it's amazing that he has been able to survive this evening where Mapisa Ntlakula and Lodlo did not. And so that certainly was interesting. But for me, the big red flag tonight was the consolidation of the State Security Agency in the presidency. I think this is a terrible idea. I think it's had a terrible history in South Africa, where we saw what happened when under apartheid, when the Bureau of State Security was located in the president's office. I think it's a very, very bad precedent. I would rather have seen the president taking the bold move and appointing Mr. Mufamadi as the Minister of State Security. He was the author of the high-level panel report. He knows what needs to be done there, and I think he would have been able to achieve his objectives far better there. Then, of course, the splitting of water and sanitation, I think, is a very good idea. We did this in our shadow cabinet over 9 months ago because the two portfolios require a specialist focus. And I think that is a good idea. But, I think that many of the same faces just moved around. I think that the analysts are right. It's a shuffling the deck chairs on the Titanic. Not a lot of really new blood coming in. And some of the people who failed quite spectacularly in their portfolios just shuffled into other portfolios where no doubt they will continue with their mediocre treatment of their portfolios.
All right. I mean, a key post, Minister of Finance, Enoch Godongwana. Your thoughts on that?
Well, I think he's got a big Herculean task ahead of him over the next 24 to 48 hours, and that's to clear up the 2012 scandal around and the like that led to his original resignation from Parliament. I think there's still too many unanswered questions. I think there's still too many question marks hanging over him. And I think that if he's wanting to establish credibility, I think he's going to have to give an honest and full account of that before it starts to come out in dribs and drabs like the leaking that we saw around Zweli Mkhize over the course of the last fortnight.
When the president took over, one of the things that he said is that he was going to look towards shrinking cabinet. Do you think he's missed an opportunity in this reshuffle to make his cabinet smaller?
Absolutely, and I think that one of the great ways to start would have been with the deputy ministers. I think we've got way too many deputy ministers, and it starts to affect the operation of the House because you've got so many members of the executive that there's often a quorum problem in the House. I think that the executive's too big, it's too expensive, it's one of the largest in the world, and I think the president would have done well to cut a lot of those deputy ministers, particularly in departments where the deputy ministers we never see, hear from them or know what they're doing from one day to the next, and yet they're earning big salaries and being a burden on the taxpayer's purse. So I think there was a missed opportunity there this evening, but I think the big one for me was the big surprise for me was how Bheki Cele was able to hang on to his job despite the terrible failures in policing that we've seen over the course of the last month in South Africa.
Mr. Steenhuisen, thank you so much indeed for joining us and sharing your thoughts with us tonight.
Thank you.
All right, that's the DA leader, John Steenhuisen. Again, similar sentiments to other leaders that we've heard this evening and speakers, generally saying that not much of a change, that it seems to be more of the same, but perhaps different faces. All right, let's get the reaction from the UDM, and we're joined by the party's leader, Major General Bantu Holomisa, retired. Thank you so much indeed for joining us, and welcome to the program.
Thank you very much, and thank you to our viewers.
What are your thoughts about what we were told this evening by the President?
I think what I've noticed is that the ANC is running thin on leadership or quality people you can appoint as ministers. I never expected that Minister of Finance, Tito Mboweni, would be replaced by a head of economic desk of the ANC, which has failed dismal in that desk, let alone his past shenanigans, which cost him a cabinet post, a deputy minister of quality cabinet post, if you like. But you guys, you will do a research on him. Insofar as the security cluster is concerned, I think President Cyril Ramaphosa should have sent those three back home. We witnessed in this country a mayhem which for 3 days in succession, without the involvement of police, army, and the ministers were not even to be found on TV and radio stations. They were on AWOL. Now, by leaving some of them and rewarding some of them, he has to be blamed and be condemned for that, the president. something is not right still on that reshuffling in that area. But if he plays politics, we can understand, because Minister of Education, Minister of Health, Minister of Police should have been shown the door in this reshuffling because of what their failure in what they have done in their departments, including corruption. Minister of Defense, good replacement. Minister, the Speaker is a well-known disciplinarian, and I'm sure the Department of Defense will get a better image and restoration of discipline. He is a strong person. We congratulate her for that appointment. Insofar as the security or intelligence being moved to the presidency, of course, the president, you will recall in 2018, he appointed a task team to look into the problems of the state security, which was headed by Sidney Mafumati. Sidney Mafumati made some recommendations, and those recommendations were given to Zoza to implement them. But she seemed to have failed, and I think the president wants to monitor that department closer by appointing Sidney Mafumati as a security advisor. I would say Sidney Mafumati will be a de facto minister of intelligence in the presidency. Because the deputy minister, we're still waiting for Zondo Commission to clear his name. So we cannot be sure what's going on there. Other than that, it's clear that it's all the same old people. Poor Lindiwe Sisulu, she has never had luck. All these minister presidents, from Beki to Zuma, and now to Cyril, they always toss her all over around. She never settles.
All right. We're going to leave it there. Thank you very much indeed, UDM leader, Major General retired Bantu Holomisa. All right, let's get the view of the Freedom Front Plus, and we're joined by Dr. Peter Groenewald. Thank you for joining us. What's the Freedom Front Plus's thoughts on the cabinet reshuffle this evening?
Good evening, Peter. Well, firstly, the resignation of Mr. Tito Mboweni as Minister of Finance, I think is a shock for many people, and it will surely decrease investment confidence in South Africa, specifically from international investors. And the appointment of Mr. Enoch Godongwana as the new Minister of Finance was a mistake. Mr. Godongwana is a controversial person. We must remember that he was, a couple of years ago, he was fired as an MSc of Finance in the Eastern Cape. And there's quite a lot of allegations and a cloud of corruption as far as Mr. Godongwana is concerned. The appointment of the new Minister for Health is a positive move. Mr. Pavela is not new. He is a medical doctor, and I think that can bring some stability. As far as defense and military veterans are concerned, Ms. Thandi Modise, I think, is a positive appointment. She is a soldier, or she was a soldier, and she knows what is going on in defense. Although it's a loss for Parliament. She was a speaker that brought some stability, and she had some authority as Speaker in the National Assembly. So that is a loss for the National Assembly. But it is also quite clear that the President wants to get control over the security services. Therefore, the movement of the State Security Agency to the Presidency, his appointment of Sidney Mafumati as his special advisor. We must remember that Dr. Mafumati was the person who compiled the report on the State Security Agency, where a lot of corruption was exposed within the state security agency. So he wants control over that to ensure that he does not get undermined again as far as the insurrection is concerned, what happened in KZN. It is a pity that he did not replace the Minister of Police, but not replacing him is actually a clear sign. And even if we looked at the body language of the President this evening, he's under stress, but it is clear that he is not in control, that he still has to satisfy certain factions within the ANC. Therefore, Mr. Bakitsele is still the Minister for Police. And if we look, for instance, the fact that he also compiled a special panel to investigate and have a critical review of the preparedness of the security cluster in South Africa is a sign that he is very worried about the security services in South Africa. And this is his way of trying to get a new control. So we will have to see. I must also say that the President missed a golden opportunity to decrease the number of ministers. He made a promise a couple of years ago that he will constantly try to decrease the cabinet. He now increased it with a new Minister for Water and Sanitation. So where we had 28 ministers, we have 29 now. And I think he lost a golden opportunity to decrease that number. The Freedom Front Plus are worried about the financial situation. If we look at the economy, the fact that we have to ensure that we get investment locally and internationally to create jobs, the replacement and the situation under a new Minister for Finance is very worrying for the Freedom Front Plus. And I also want to say it seems that history repeats itself. The moment the President makes a late night announcements on cabinet reshuffle, it is always finance that is in trouble. If we think back to Zuma when he replaced Minister Nene with Van Rooyen. So I don't hope that history will repeat further on the consequences of these moves. But we are not completely satisfied. There are some good new appointments, but overall, we are worried about South Africa and the new ministers and to build the economy.
All right, that's where we'll leave it. Thank you so much indeed for sharing your thoughts with us this evening. That's the word from the Freedom Front Plus. All right, let's hear from Dennis Bloem, COPE National Spokesperson. Thanks so much indeed for joining us. What are your thoughts on the cabinet reshuffle this evening?
Good evening, Peter. Now, Peter, we must first start by saying we are not surprised with the sudden resignation of the Minister of Finance, Tito Mboweni. Tito Mboweni was for a very long time under serious attack and pressure from the alliance. Just a week ago, with a press briefing, I think it was on Friday, the minister, Tito Mboweni, came out very clear to say that he don't know what he have done to Cosatu. Why they are hating him like that. We know that he was a person who have put the interest of the country before the interest of the ANC alliance. So we have lost a very good man. He has tried his level best to steer the ship, but pressure was very much, too much on him. Now, let me come to the health minister, Zweli Mkhize, who resigned all of a sudden. We must say that that is not enough. We have expected that the president will say that charges will come up against Zweli because there was corruption involved in this. You see, Peter, in this country, you cannot just do these things and just resign and you are scot-free. No, we will not. We will check as the Congress of the People. We will check what is going on, and definitely, if there is no case against him, we will definitely go to a police station and open a case of corruption and fraud, because it is taxpayers' money. We cannot just leave it. But with the appointment of the health minister, Dr. Joe Parker is very capable. He is the right candidate with his deputy, who was the MEC in KwaZulu Natal. A very good appointment is the appointment of the Minister of Defense, Methandi Mutise. Methandi Mutise is a solid person and very stable. We think that Methandi will definitely bring the dignity and integrity of the defense back again. But I think a very wrong move that the president has made tonight is to put state security in the presidency. No, we have thought that the president will put it under the Justice Department, so that you can go in many countries. It is under the Justice Department and not in the presidency. It's not a wise move that the president has made. A big disappointment. We have said, Peter, when you interviewed me, I think a week or so, that the security cluster ministers must be fired. We have said Beki Pele and Ayanda Kroto must go. Now, instead of firing Ayanda Kroto, she is being redeployed. She has failed, yes, in state security. The president has redeployed her now to public service and administration, so that she must also go there and mess up that thing. Why not firing her, including Beki Pele? Beki Pele have said in the open, they were caught unaware of this. How can you? It's not only the intelligence, the state security that must answer. It is also crime intelligence. Crime intelligence falls under Beki Pele. Now, it is a very big mistake to redeploy people from this side and from that side. We want to say it very clear. This deputy minister's position, we don't know why there are still deputy ministers in this government. Why are they not doing away with these deputy ministers? Because they are just there. They're doing absolutely, nobody knows. Joe Pasha, Dr. Joe Pasha, was the deputy minister of health for a very long time. But the president has appointed an acting minister in health. So we are saying that the deputy minister's position must be scrapped. It's a waste of taxpayers' money. That is what we are saying, Peter. Otherwise, we are saying this reshuffle, cabinet reshuffle, is long overdue. President has now come tonight because he was under heavy pressure from all sides. Everybody was screaming about this thing. We will watch the space on this thing of the violence and what? Nobody will
Did you say you're going to change it to...
More than 300 people have lost their lives. Ayanda Tsoto, a Becky Trele, must not think that we are going to say, no, there was a cabinet reshuffle. We forget about it. No. People must pay. People must answer for the lives of and the billions of rand damages in business. So
Okay.
we are not going to leave it like that.
All right. Dennis Cope, thank you very much indeed for joining us and giving us your thoughts on behalf of Cope. Thank you very much.